Let me read through the list of items we'll be reviewing. Again, tonight's just a work session just to familiarize ourselves with the items that will be coming before us in a few weeks. We will have a public comment on any agenda-related items. I'll read through the items for anyone who might not have a copy of the meeting. Item number one is public comment. Item number two is 392 Nichols Lane, accessory structure detached garage site plan. Item number three is 903 Morris Drive, an accessory structure detached garage site plan. Item number four is 1252 Woodvale Drive, accessory structure detached garage site plan. Item number five has been removed. Item number six is Woods Ferry rezoning with preliminary master development plan. Item number seven is 370 and 380 Lower Station Camp Creek Road, annexation and plan of service. Item number eight is Woods Ferry right-of-way abandonment and vacation. Item number nine is Nexus TN Phase 2, Phase 2, South Section 3, a preliminary plat. Item number 10 is Godfrey Properties, a major subdivision plat. Item number 11 is Argento at 386, preliminary plat. Item number 12 is Avery Trace. It's an amended preliminary master development plan and final master development plan. Item number 13 is Avery Trace, a preliminary plat. Item number 14 is Westfield Phase 2B, amended preliminary master development plan and revised final master development plan. Item number 15 is Villas on the Green, Clubhouse and Pool, a revised final master development plan. And then we have some other business to cover after the meeting. So I'll begin with a public comment on any agenda-related items. Would anyone like to speak on any of those items? Yes, please come forward.
Thank you, Chairman. I can speak now. I can wait to other business because if you can decide to suspend the rules on other business, because for that it's for open space. So whatever works for you.
I think since it is a work session rather than a meeting, I think we'll include that in this public comment at the beginning. If
All right.
Would like to go ahead.
Pascal Javens, 1335 Longolo Park. I requested at council and I was voted on to bring to you a discussion on the open space issue, what I consider an issue. I sent you this afternoon a copy. You should have all received in your email a PDF of some research I did to compare what the cities around us are doing. Because I've been looking at a lot of plans you guys approve and will come to us in front of the council. And I disagree with the way the open space is used. Again, if I go on the zoning ordinance, the only definition we have on open space is actually called common open space. It's not just open space. We don't have a definition for open space. So when I see a plan arriving, we just say open space. Basically, we don't even have that defined on our ordinance, on our zoning. So I think there is an issue there. I think the only one of the few times I saw the term common open space was actually with the Argento who's there tonight, where they actually define on the plan, they use the term common open space. If I read the definition we have on the ordinance, it said it's a parcel or parcels of land and or an area of water within the site, whatever site development is, and designed and intended for use or enjoyment of the occupants of said development. So I like the term use and enjoyment. When I see a retention pond design an open space, I would like you to explain to me how the people who live here is going to use the retention pond and enjoy the retention pond. The joke I like to use generally is, yeah, when it's raining, that can make a free swimming pool for the kids, but that's not really the goal. On the pages I sent to you, I did research. I didn't put everything because there is plenty of things there. But the majority of the city around, when they define common open space, they actually put out what I call utilities. And, you know, a retention pond, I call that utility. I don't call that enjoyment. So I appreciate if you can look into it and get back to us on that. Just, you know, I cited Brentwood, but because I remember one of my colleagues telling we can't define open space, but just Brentwood, where they have actually 15 or 16 pages would define open space. So our living planners say, had some good words when he said we should be an example for the city around it, and I agree with him. We should be an example on trying to do what's right for the people who are going to live in development we approve. So appreciate your time, I appreciate you looking into it, and let's see where we can go with that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public comment section? Michelle?
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Puryear and Planning Commissioners. I just wanted to comment on item number 6. It's a rezoning request on Woods Ferry Road for a townhouse development. I just really don't think that that's an appropriate road for a townhouse development. We have too many townhouses and apartments in Gallatin already, and I think that that location is not something that works for high density. And also, I have a question about it because they're requesting MRO zoning, and MRO zoning is a very intense zoning, and I want to know why they're requesting MRO zoning for some single-family homes and townhouses. I think that MRO zoning is not, we've had a lot of problems with properties that have MRO zoning, and I've noticed in the past that a lot of times when apartments come for approval, and apartments are kind of a real hot topic, and a lot of citizens are really angry about how many apartments have been and are being approved in Gallatin, but a lot of times the reason is given that, oh, the MRO zoning is already on the land, and so we can't say no. And we've literally had developers or the developers' attorneys come and say, yeah, if you don't give us our apartments, we're just going to sue the city. So I think that it's a really dangerous thing to put MRO zoning into a suburban character area. Because who knows what's going to happen? Like, everyone they have a good intention to do this development, but what if it doesn't happen for some reason, and then it gets sold to someone else, and the MRO zoning is in place, and then, oh boy, somebody comes along and buys it and wants to build apartments, and they're going to sue the city if they don't get their apartments, and that's not a good spot for apartments. So just worst case scenario, you should always look at that when you're putting some really, really intense zoning in place that wouldn't be appropriate for that area if worst case scenario happened. And that was my comment on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Johns. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and take this opportunity before we get started to announce that this is Mr. Johnny Wilson's last meeting with us. And Mr. Wilson has been on the Planning Commission since before I was on the Planning Commission. And he has always been thoughtful and considerate and really respectful of everyone up here, and he listens. And I'll also say that he's been secretary for how many years?
It's either 17, 18 years, I'm not sure.
And so he has to sign, I think his name is on every plat recorded in this city out there. And it's always become a game. I just have to come and sign my initials behind him, but they'll call and say some plats are due to be signed, and I'll try my best to get up there. And when I finally get up to City Hall, Mr. Wilson's already been there. Every time. It's like Johnny on the spot. So I don't know how they must call, and he's sitting out in the parking lot and comes right in and signs. That's all I can figure. So thank you for your many years of service. How many years is it?
It's either 17, 18, I'm not sure.
Well, you've always added civility, and you've been courteous to everybody, and thank you for your service.
I appreciate it. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
We'll miss you.
I miss you too.
We'll
Watch us on TV.
we'll move.
Gift forthcoming.
Beg pardon?
Appreciation gift forthcoming.
Okay, good.
Still working on Mr. McCord's.
We'll move on into item number 2. That is 392 Nichols Lane, an accessory structure, a detached garage site plan. Jim?
All right. Jim Carpenter, staff planner. The owner and applicant request approval of a site plan for a 14,440 square foot accessory structure, or 14, with alternative architecture on a 1.0 acre parcel zoned R40 low density residential located at 392 Nichols Lane. It's very similar to others that we have, that the Planning Commission has approved, most notably one on Nichols Circle in November. Staff had minor comments on this item.
Thank you, Jim. Do we have a representative for the applicant here?
Hey everyone, how are you? Thank you for having us, or having me. My name's Austin Christian. I'm the owner of the Barn Store in Gallatin. I think the one thing that was mentioned was that the public utility district easement needed to be put on the site plan, which is not an issue at all. Per the plot plan, it looks like that easement is 10 foot off the property line. The building that we're proposing to build is 13 feet off the property line, so we'd be 3 foot outside of that public utility easement. I think the only other comment, other than some of the more generic ones that we are not really gonna have any challenges with at all, have to do with the exterior facade of the structure being steel siding. I don't know if you guys are familiar with my company or some of the structures that we build. I may have built some for some of the people that are on the commission here, but and I believe that we've actually also built some structures with this metal siding for the city of Gallatin, if I'm not mistaken. But there's been this somewhat of a challenge with building these types of structures with this siding inside the city limits of Gallatin, which fortunately for me, I've had the opportunity to be around this business for over 20 years. So I've seen kind of how this industry has transformed. Going back over 20 years ago, I 100% get it. The majority of our structures, I would say probably 98%, were in agricultural areas used for livestock, hay buildings, goat sheds, horse barns, stuff that was out in the middle of the field in very rural areas. Since then, just in the last, I'd say 10 or 12 years, 98% agricultural to 2% residential has now completely flipped. We are now building these buildings in every surrounding jurisdiction. Sumner County, Hendersonville City has recently slacked up on their restrictions on it. Wilson County, Rutherford County, Davidson, Robertson, all these different counties and city jurisdictions that we deal in that are allowing us to have this type of exterior facade. But going back to the transition, now it's 98% residential and 2% agricultural. The majority of our farmers seems like somewhat going away, and there's nobody really stepping into those shoes to fill them. So our industry has drastically shifted towards the residential side, but I'd say one of the biggest reasons that it's shifted that way is because there's been over the last several years, a lot of developments in some of the ways that we can spruce them up, for lack of a better word. Putting really nice residential garage doors on them, color match windows to match the house, different pitches of the roof system, 1 foot soffit fascia overhang. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of the things that we're doing. And I'd be happy to at a later date, not today, but, show you guys hundreds of thousands of pictures of buildings that we've put next to homes that were valued anywhere from $350,000 to $4 or $5 million estates. I think it's just over the last several years, as it's transitioned more towards a residential method of construction, it's became more generally accepted by public as a really, really nice, viable, pleasant to the eye type of facade. In terms of the material itself, going back to 20 years ago, as a residential application, I would completely understand because that, not wanting that in the city because there was the paint process on the panels caused oxidation in a pretty quick period of time. So you would get that chalkiness on the outside of the panel as well as you would see some of the panels fade differently. So didn't look as good. Several years of obviously advancements in technology and engineering and paint, that's the big one. We've got a panel right now that has a lifetime warranty, which every building that we sell right now with that facade has a lifetime warranty on the paint for fading, chipping, and rust. So unlike a product like vinyl, which over a long period of time can, it's a porous object, so it can accumulate mold, which everybody knows that you're not going to clean it as much as you might want to. But, this panel doesn't mold. And again, with that paint process, we're not seeing the fading, the chipping, the rusting, the oxidation. It's just a phenomenal paint process. It's actually a 9-stage paint process that we've got going on to get us that lifetime warranty for the fading, chipping, and rust. So I think that was the main thing on this particular structure, had to do with the exterior facade. If I'm incorrect, please correct me on that.
So just to get an idea of scale, there's a house immediately to the left, and it looks like they also have a barn structure. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's metal.
And is it 1,400 square feet? Is that about the same size as that one? Is that is that comparable?
Being completely honest with you, I have no idea what that structure is. I haven't even been to the site to see it.
Metal, and it's gray.
Okay, there you go.
Other questions?
Hey, Jim, I guess just for the clarification, I mean, your comment about the exterior facades just to make it compliant with the ordinance, just like a lot of these that are coming through. So, yeah, I think Austin, what's going on with this is our city ordinance says it has to be, similar to the structure. So every one of these, until that gets changed, is going to have to come in, and staff doesn't have a choice. They've got to recommend a denial.
Sure.
You're asking for it, but historically, as long as it's had similar types of structures in the area, we're not going to have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So
And that's great, and I appreciate you guys having the, not necessarily leniency on that, but just the understanding that that's going to happen. For us personally, we build in the neighborhood of 500 units a year. We'd love to build even more than that, and obviously those are not all in Sumner County. But this process, even though it is super pleasant and it we are confident that it is going to go in a way where we're going to be able to receive an application, receive a permit and be able to build the structure. With us being such a fast-paced, volume builder, it just creates a step that I feel like in the future could be kind of, negated, and just something that you guys honestly, because as I'm sure you guys see these things through here. I know I'm not the first one that's seen. So it's like y'all are dealing with so many of these. Like if we could just maybe.
yeah, so I think it's something Jillian, we can talk about for sure. But the city's in the process, or just beginning the process of a major update to the zoning ordinance system, and this for sure will be part of that conversation.
And I would love to help you guys in that. I mean, like I said, I've got thousands of pictures of these structures, and
that was actually going to be my next question. Was as we do that, we might call on you to help just
be happy to.
some of the technology. And
Yeah,
stuff.
architecture, I would argue, is probably one of the biggest components of the zoning ordinance we need to take a serious look at.
And for your information, we didn't used to go to these
No.
extremes. until somebody got really mad about one, and then it kind of forced it.
It's always the one, right?
The one, I know.
Yeah, I get it. Well,
Well, if there are no other questions for him, we'll sit back and.
Yeah, I
Any-
don't have any questions. I'm at there's one right next door, so.
It'll be fine.
awesome.
We'll see you back in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is 903 Morris Drive, an accessory structure, detached garage, site plan. Al?
Martinez, planning staff. The owner and applicant are requesting approval of a site plan for 903 Morris to construct a garage as an accessory structure with alternative architecture. This structure will be located in the rear, approximately 840 square feet. The applicant has provided a list of properties in the general vicinity with detached garages that do not match the primary structure. Planning's real only concern is that the structure be located outside of the 2 easements on the property. As you can see, there's a 20-foot one in the rear and then a 15-foot where they plan on positioning it just in between. But again, they have listed plenty of other properties with similar structures.
Thank you, Val. Do we have a representative for the applicant? Or the applicant?
Bruce Winchesky, 903 Morris Drive. Where it is, yeah, there's the, that one's not showing the, I had some dotted lines on a new thing, but the last 15 feet of the property is drainage easement, and then there's a 20-foot space that goes all the way across, that's open, and then there's a 20-foot utilities easement. We're building in between them, we're not touching them. And the building would be a metal building, and we want to do that because it's durable, easy to maintain, and a lower cost to us. And there was another list up there. It showed 10 properties, the addresses of where there was already metal buildings in our neighborhood. In fact, there's one in our back property. There's a map of where they're located. I'm on the right, there's a red box right there. And those are, there's another 20 buildings, detached garages that are not the same as the house that's on the property. Those already exist. So I think it seems like we are conforming to what's already there. And we're just asking for your permission to build one back there.
And you are outside of all the easements?
That's correct. We had a survey company, professional survey company, stake out the whole property, and they staked out where the garage would be. I called the 811 underground utilities locators. They came out and had them check the entire backyard. There's nothing underground, particularly the utility one I was a little worried about, but there's nothing underground there. I suspect the power company was going to, when in 1978, when the house was built, they were developing the whole area, and they decided they were going to run power through there somehow, but they never did. But the easement's still on the books as being an easement there, and so so it goes across like 3 properties there, but there's nothing underneath it.
I wondered why you had overhead power lines running down the side of your drive. Just word of advice from dealing with these, check with the Gallatin Electric about your distance from the roof of the building to those lines. There's
Right.
specifics. It's not just the easement, but anyway. Any other questions?
No, this is pretty routine, and appreciate you going into so much detail to locate all the buildings, so.
Yes.
I don't see any problems.
All right. There are no other questions. We'll see you back in a couple of weeks then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Number 4 is 1252 Woodvale Drive, an accessory structure detached garage site plan.
Good evening, Commissioners. Charlie Pieri, staff planner. The owner and applicant is here tonight requesting approval for a site plan of a 440 square foot accessory structure. It is also known as a detached garage. This doesn't appear to be working.
It worked.
Oh, there we go. Okay, as you can see, I'm going to point that out here. The proposed location is going to be in this back corner of the property. For some important notes, there is a 10-foot public utilities and drainage easement running along I think this is the south side of the property and the west over here. The building location is positioned 11 feet off the rear property line, so there is enough room to get back in there if need be. The proposed elevations for the building are similar to being consistent with the zoning ordinance. The majority of the structure is going to be white, just like the house. And then the front design, not like me today.
Pickle.
And then the front is going to have some brick, I guess, decoration. This picture was, I guess, part of the packet that they had. The owner is present here if you guys have any questions.
Thank you.
Comment. I am putting I couldn't get a better picture, so this is what I come with, but it'll have a 12-inch soffit, what do you call it, around, all the way around. Be one door like that and one man door. And I did stay away from the easements, 11 foot and 5 foot. And the easement, I believe, is 10 and 4.
And that's it.
Oh, if you would state your name for the
Oh, my
record.
name is Larry Biaco.
We're recording this, so we have to.
Okay, I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
Any questions?
What is the easement?
It's just a 10-foot public utility and drainage easement on the back side of the property.
And you said there's going to be brick?
Metal.
Did you say that you want to know the zoning?
No,
I thought you said there was going to be
It's going to be a
brick.
metal building, similar to what the gentleman before me.
I guess all that sounds just fine. And then I guess just the question would be, are there similar outbuildings in your neighborhood or similar types of structures?
I'm in an older neighborhood, and
There is one. I did see it on the overhead map. It's right next door.
Right, and that's
It is also a metal building.
metal all the way around.
I don't,
Bigger than what I'm proposing.
I don't see any problems with this at all, so I think it'll be just fine.
Any other questions? All right, we'll see you
Thank
back
you very
in a
much.
few weeks. Thank you, sir. Item number 5 has been removed from the agenda. Item number 6 is Woods Ferry rezoning with preliminary master development plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The owner and applicant request approval to rezone 16.6 acres from the R40 low density residential, R20 medium density residential, and CS commercial services districts to MRO multiple residential and office district with a preliminary master development plan for Woods Ferry residential development located east of Woods Ferry Road and west of Highway 109, kind of between the two. If this works. The owner and applicant request rezoning for 84 residential units, comprising 31 single-family detached units and 53 single-family attached units. The applicant is asking for various exceptions for the MRO zoning, including lot size, lot width, and architecture. These exceptions are very common with similarly designed MRO developments. Go back to the architecture real quick. It's very similar to the product in Oxford Station. Most of the single families. And we'll get through, and then these are the sort of townhome units that they are proposing. Staff has kind of two main concerns with this development. First, staff is aware of the visibility for this site between 109 and Woods Ferry Road. So this is a street view. It's far back because it's on the northbound lanes of 109. But the site is very visible from 109 and Woods Ferry. Staff wants to ensure that with the elevation change, that these units are properly screened from 109 with vegetation and or a more elevated architecture for units facing 109. So we'd be looking at this area of buildings for that. And then staff wants to ensure that these units 1 through 8 on the plan, are shown as fronting on Woods Ferry. Staff would want to ensure that throughout this process that these units continue to front on Woods Ferry Road and keep that character area similar to other properties developed on the same street. Secondly, staff has concerns with parking for this development. Staff's counted 38 parking spaces outside of driveways and garages. However, the number of garages and driveways were unclear with the original submittal. And so we just want to ensure that the development has adequate parking for guests, visitors, and to serve the owners of these properties. From the proposed, let's see. And one last thing, I just want to touch on this quickly. So this area is split zoned, and it's also a split character area for this property. So here's the property here. There's a split character area for general urban and for suburban on the property. Go back to site plan. With that, I have no other comments at this time.
All right, thank you. Do we have a representative for the applicant?
Is this the Poindexter property?
It's to the right of it. If you were looking at the old Poindexter place, it's that large field off to the back.
John, I'll have to recuse myself on this item.
Corey Nelson with 615 Design Group. If I could take just a second to kind of talk over some things and some of the questions that were brought up from planning. This is from a local builder, Parkside. They do a variety of these type of products in the local area, Hendersonville and Gallatin. I think they're providing a great assortment of products. Going into kind of staff's comments about the visibility, we'll be working with staff to create a pleasant facade that is facing 109. As it was discussed, units 1 through 8, they want to make sure that are not, the front facade is facing Woods Ferry. That is what we were planning to do. And that is what I believe the architecture should show. I know he said it was a little confusing. That's something that we'll be correcting with our submittal. And also with parking, I know we've talked briefly with some staff, but mostly we have parking internal garages and parking pads, sometimes 2 parking garages, 2 parking pads for the driveways, along with the townhomes, and kind of circulating the parking around the site for that, what you'd say, party or overflow parking, utilizing with the townhomes. As far as the split zoning, if you can look back at those pictures from 109, the commercial side that would be fronting 109 is not really usable or accessible to 109. So we think this would be a great use for this site. I know that, let's see, we're now at the floodplain and happy to answer any other questions. Also to make note of the center open space, usable open space. very usable, and we're working towards providing some kind of amenity there to be used by everyone there.
So I'll lead off with a question to staff. During the public comment, we had the question about the MRO zoning. Do we have a zoning classification in our toolkit which allows for townhomes but doesn't open the door to apartments necessarily?
PRDs are usually what we go to. The issue with this one is usually a PRD, like your R8s or your R10s, can only have 30% of townhomes. And this wouldn't fall under that. R6 PRD could be something you look at, but that actually has a higher density allowance than MRO. But it might solve that problem because it doesn't have that restriction on townhomes. But that's why this went to MRO. Most of if we have a development that's primarily townhomes and proposed that way, usually MRO is what they ask for.
Okay. Questions?
It looks like all the traffic will be put on Woods Ferry Road and Woods Ferry's Fonera. Is there any chance of doing anything to Woods Ferry Road?
So we do have a traffic study. They did not suggest any improvements for Woods Ferry, but they do suggest to engineering to lower the speed limit on Woods Ferry.
What is the speed limit currently on Woods Ferry?
That's a great question. I would refer you to the traffic engineer. Maybe Aaron.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember what that section is.
35.
It's 35. Based off of what that's saying there, 35.
I think it's 35, yeah.
Yeah, and also advisory arrows for a lot of the turns. As you can see, it's a very windy type of road. That was just per the traffic recommendations. I cannot speak to anything further, I guess. Traffic engineer of record.
Basically, how many additional parking spaces did you guys add to this other than just the units themselves?
36, and we make sure to not just center them to make look like a mass parking lot. We kind of feathered them around the whole area. And also to speak to density for the MRO. The MRO allows for this site, I would believe, about 5.9 units per acre. We were providing 5.06. So basically, we could get 98 units. We're providing 85. Obviously, that was a comment from staff of explaining that since there was that split use in the floodplain, you can only use 50% of that for the density. But when we went through that exercise, that was what we determined was the max, and then what we're providing is 85.
And keep in mind with the character areas, you have suburban, which is 2 to 5 units per acre, and you have general urban, which can be up to 15. So that's something we'll have to elaborate on in the staff report and take into account with this development. So something to keep in mind. And I wanted to add and you can see it better on the colored rendering of the site plan. My main concern with the parking is that we have some units that don't have driveways, but they have garages, or they don't have either. We know not everyone uses their garages for the storage of their vehicle. And so my concern is that you have a number of units right there in the center. I'm afraid people will get home and have no parking options. So if they get home late at night, if people who live in the townhomes that have garages and driveways park in the surface parking, there's nothing stopping them from doing that. And so I feel like we're going to have a parking situation with this.
So some of the units do not have garages, or they all have a garage?
So I'll try and explain this the best way I can if we look at this image. So Woods Ferry, right now, they'll have 2-car garages, and I believe they would probably have enough for a driveway pad. Obviously, this is going to be something where we're working with staff to rectify the site plan, site data table. And then the next phase, just looking internal, they're going to have parking pads that'll be allowed for 2 parking spaces, but no garage. And then what she was talking about was the rear-loaded alleyways. They'll have garages, I believe 1 for each. They'll be facing the open space, so they'll just be rear-loaded as well. And then in the back, you'll have an assortment of larger townhomes with 2 pads, one and a single pad with garages that kind of go all the way around. But yes, we need to clarify the parking spaces, the locations, and the overflow parking, which is something we're going to be working on.
Does this exist now with Parkside?
Yes.
So we have the same issue there.
Sorry, could you
The
clarify?
Parkside development, does that exist, in that development, do we still have the same configuration as far as parking goes?
Are you talking about this current one with Parkside?
I think she's asking, has Parkside put this type of product somewhere else, and how's the parking worked?
I can get back to you on that. I know Oxford Station they're doing, and then they did one in Hendersonville, right near the Walmart, right off Indian Village, Indian Lake Boulevard. I can get back to you and kind of send that kind of what they've provided in the past. I can't, to the top of my head, I can't right now.
They're at the end of Lockville Road too, aren't they?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
The Oxford Station, I think they're doing phase 4 right now. And then they had a few, they're kind of scattered throughout, but we'll try and get you something like that.
What are the amenities in here?
That is to be determined right now. Right now, that's kind of like a visual of proposed amenities. But that whole open space right now is kind of up in the air at this moment. That will be kind of more honed in as we go along and be sent in with like the FMDP and such.
Is that body of water there, is that a retention pond or a detention pond?
It'll be a detention pond. I don't think it'll be that size due to the nature of the top of bank and the, I think if you look back at the site plan, I think it shows the more
But it's
realistic.
not a standing body of water?
Yeah.
And that's showing a pond. Is it a pond or is it a holding area?
That's going to be a holding area.
Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll see you back in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 7 is 370 and 380 Lower Station Camp Creek Road, annexation and plan of service.
Yes, this is for 2 existing parcels for a total of 49.36 acres that are requesting annexation. This whole block is about 5 parcels. The 2 that we are doing first are contiguous to the city. If those 2 go through, then the other 3 will follow and ask for the same request. The area we're talking about is in the hatched pattern on the screen. Is adjacent to Big Station Camp and Lower Station Camp. And they did provide boundary survey and legal descriptions as required. They are requesting plan of service and annexation at this time. This is located adjacent to the hospital emergency room right off of 386. And again, it's about 50 acres of property. It is also adjacent to the urban growth boundary, which runs along the floodplain area to the south. We are not including any annexation of Lower Station Camp Creek Road or any of the parcels south of that roadway. It's all in floodplain. So the only portion of these 2 parcels is anything north of the roadway.
Thank you. Do we have a representative for the applicant?
Good evening, Chairman. My name is Clay Haynes. I am here on behalf of Public Square, located at 106 Public Square, right around the corner over here. Again, to follow up on Jillian's comments, here to request annexation of 2 parcels. This is a part of a 5-parcel assemblage. These properties are surrounded by activity in the city. To the south, you have the emergency room. To the north, you have a dense multifamily development. And then across the street, I think you're familiar with, are mixed use. These are the primary residences of 370 and 380 Lower Station Camp. There's kind of 2 primary reasons for this request. First is the continuity of service. These parcels, surprisingly, are actually the very last electric meters that are serviced by the Nashville Electric Service. So you can imagine what would happen When there's a storm in downtown Nashville, they are literally the last people to get a truck to restore their service. So we did actually confirm with Gallatin Department of Electricity that if this annexation were successful, that they would be included with Gallatin Department of Electricity. And then the second is relative to continuity of planning. If you actually look at the Gallatin zoning map, this is literally an island that is surrounded by the city. Don't know what these are going to become. The owners don't know what these are going to become, but they do want to be residents in the city of Gallatin and would appreciate your support in that. So thank you. Happy to answer any questions for you.
Answered all my questions already.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I don't have any questions, but I mean, it makes sense. It's an island of county inside the city, so it makes sense to annex it in.
We'll see you back in a few weeks. Thank you. Item number 8 is Woods Ferry right-of-way and abandonment and vacation.
Mr. Chair, the owner and applicant request approval to abandon the City of Gallatin right-of-way on 0.29 acres located north of Highway 109, west of South Water, and south of Theodore Trace. So it's a little bit easier to see on the overhead map than it is to see on the boundary survey. But Woods Ferry once had the right-of-way go through here prior to prior to the 109 expansion and alignment and all those sort of things. So there's a 50-foot, or there was a 50-foot right-of-way here. Half of it, I believe, was abandoned to Winsong as part of that development, and the other half has been retained by the city to this point. Engineering has some concerns with the proposal, and I'll let them talk about it.
So we're not recommending approval for the abandonment of this section since TDOT previously acquired all the ingress and egress rights for the remnant piece of the property and compensated the property owner. While the city does not have use for this right-of-way for a street, there are some existing utilities that are in there. My understanding that there's gas, water, and electrical lines, and I think there's no sanitary sewer through here. So this property was split into 4 with 3 TDOT projects over the years. The first one was the 109 project, which replaced Woods Ferry. The second one was the 109 bypass, and then the third one was the State Industrial Access Project that extended Airport Road. I do have some emails that Nick had back and forth with TDOT. I can read those if you would like, but it's just describing that TDOT stated that they acquired all the ingress and egress rights from the property. They shared the deed from the acquisition with us in that language. And the 2 driveways that are described in that deed are on the south side of the bypass. That is all the state or city was obligated to allow or provide the following right-of-way access. That isn't to say that the city could not permit a driveway to the property. However, based on the acquisition, there doesn't appear to be obligation to provide access based on the compensation that TDOT paid to the owner.
We have a representative for the applicant present. Seeing none, I'll open the floor to questions for staff.
Is there any idea what the intent is for asking for this to be abandoned?
We clearly addressed this property when Winsong came about because we were very concerned that this isolated one would then be attempted to be developed and would have to be given some type of access. And there is no way to get access to this and not compromise that intersection.
The only thing I could see is if, the Jonathans was trying to increase their parking capacity somehow in that, that might be something. But again, you got utilities there that cause problems, so. Now, this one sounds like a good one for us to hang on to.
So when we.
Unless
Oh, go- I'm
someone,
sorry, go ahead.
unless someone can say why they want to abandon it. Even if we did abandon it, there'd be easements all over it, so they couldn't use it anyways.
So to help me remember, when we abandoned the right-of-way on the other side of the south section of Woods Ferry, right across 109, right across 109 bypass, we abandoned that and we split it down the middle and gave half of it back to the property owner on that side. In this case, it would be Jonathan's Grill, and then half of it to the property. That's what they're asking for it to be done here? Is that what they're asking for?
Well, half of it's already been given to Jonathan's,
Oh, I didn't know that.
so this is the remaining half.
Oh. Okay, I have no other questions. Any other questions? Well, we'll sit back in a couple weeks. Thank you. Item number 9 is Nexus 10, Phase 2, South, Section 3, preliminary plat.
Al Martinez, planning staff. The owner and applicant are requesting approval of a preliminary plat for Phase 2 South, Section 3 of Nexus, Tennessee. This plat proposes 31 detached homes and 3 open space lots. Most of the comments were pretty minimal. This was a routine preliminary plat.
Thank you. We have a representative for the applicant present.
Good evening, Brad Snyder, CSDG. Yeah, most of the comments are pretty minor and can be addressed. Just here for any questions.
Questions?
Sure.
Doesn't seem to be any. We'll see you back in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 10 is Godfrey Property, a major subdivision plat.
Charlie Peary, staff planner. The owner and applicant is requesting approval for a major subdivision plat to create 3 buildable lots on 5.59 acres, zoned as R40 low-density residential, located north and west of East Nichols Circle. Over here we have an overview of the property. There is a TVA line that runs through, I think that's the south side. Of course, we have the 200-foot easement extending on either side of that. Staff has some relatively minor comments on this overall plat. You may notice that the 3 lots here in question are a little bit over the minimum lot area for the R40 zoning district. This lot here, I think, is a little over 2 acres, and these are 1 1/4, 1 1/2 acres respectively. In regards to the lot area of the remainder of the subdivision, there are some other lots, particularly on this west side of the subject properties, that are 1.5 acres to 2 acres as well. Any questions?
Help me get my bearings on where this is.
This is on Nichols Circle, I think south of Nichols Lane, over there by.
Back up to the
Patrick's
D.R. Horton development.
Okay.
Do we have a representative for the applicant present?
Commission, my name is Joe Godfrey with Godfrey Development Group. Just a few comments. This is a challenging site. It's a little over 5 acres that is inside of Pleasant Acres subdivision that was platted back in the early 70s. It's just a remnant parcel that was in there. And we have been able to, it actually allows for up to 5 lots. There's a drain that was going through the backside of lot 3 that was shown on the other slide, or actually between lot 3 and lot 2. We did have a stream determination done by TDEC. It's just a drain going through there. It's not a stream. But we have decided to just leave it at 3 lots, the large lots, and leave that more of a natural area. Everything is good, other than I did see a comment in here from engineering that I would like to request a variance on. There are no sidewalks anywhere in the neighborhood. There's no sidewalks south of Nichols Lane. And they've requested a $33,000 payment, which is a big burden for just 3 lots for a sidewalk fee. There is a pump station across the street. There's a drain that goes under the road. There's only a few houses that are across from this property. And so that would really be the only thing that I would like to get your opinion on, if that would be a consideration to allow for a variance since there's no sidewalks anywhere around there. And the dollar amount is very high because there is a lot of lineal footage of road on this property.
Well, I would think your proposal is probably really well received by the neighborhood because it's in keeping with the other lots, and I'm sure the neighbors are happy about it. I, for one, there are no sidewalks in that area. That doesn't seem like I would be prone to be
Very odd.
lenient
If I
on
could
that.
speak to that, we are asking for a payment in lieu of on that. And I'll read you a section in the subregs. It's section 4-102.903, talking about sidewalks. It says residential and mixed-use subdivisions. Sidewalks shall be required in all residential and mixed-use subdivisions, with the exceptions of those subdivisions in section B that are final plats of additional sections of subdivisions where sidewalks were not required in the previously recorded sections of those subdivisions. So this section has a bunch of exceptions, this being one of those. This abuts Pleasant Acres, section 2, so effectively could be section 3 of this. And so y'all can make the determination on whether they need to provide sidewalks, or based off of what I just read from the subregs, if they meet that exemption. If you do decide to require the sidewalks, it would be our recommendation to do a payment in lieu of, because there are no other sidewalks in this area.
Well, just recently, we had a lot in the same neighborhood, may have been on the same street, where they had one house and they divided that into 3 lots. Do y'all remember that coming before us a few months
Yeah.
ago? And I don't believe that we required sidewalks or a payment in lieu of sidewalks on that property. But you also read a really long thing that I would have to see in writing before I understood. Is that apples and apples?
I think so, because I mean, I think in that case, so I think Pleasant Acres, section 1 comes from Nichols Lane, and then it splits on both sides, so this probably abuts that side as well. But in the section that I read from the subregs could give this an exception to the sidewalk requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, and based on what you read, I would consider this an extension of a subdivision. You know, it's just essentially replatting of a lot that was right there, so I don't have a problem with that.
I don't necessarily have a comment on the sidewalks. I don't have an issue with that. My only comment or question is, has fire weighed in on this subdivision? When I say fire, I mean codes.
Yes.
They have, and they're okay with splitting it into 3 lots and adding essentially 2 more lots to the subdivision?
Yes. Yeah, I've already gone through our pre-con meeting and went through what we were planning to do.
Okay.
Any other questions or feedback? Okay, we'll see it back in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 11 is Argento at which staff member is presenting this item?
Martinez, planning staff. The owner and applicant are requesting approval of a preliminary plat to create 3 lots and dedicate a right-of-way on 40.26 plus or minus acres located east of Greenlee Boulevard and south of Nashville Pike. Planning staff had minimal comments for this one.
Okay. We have a representative for the applicant.
Yes, sir. I'm Matt Lawrence from Reagan Smith. I'm an engineer, land surveyor on this project. These 3 lots, we're just trying to finalize the conditional approval of the FMDP and extend the road and have a commercial lot to the north, apartment lot in the middle, and another lot to the south there. We didn't have any questions about the comments other than adjustments to some right-of-way, but that can be figured out later on.
Open the floor to questions.
Out of curiosity, what's the zoning on the property right now?
It's MU.
No other questions?
No, sir.
All right, then we'll see it back in a few weeks. Thank you. Item number 12 is Avery Trace, an amended preliminary master development plan and final master development plan.
Yes, this is located at 1159 East Main Street. This is for 293 residential units. This includes both single-family units and townhome units. The plan is generally consistent with the approved PMDP. They did remove 2 lots due to stormwater requirements. Otherwise, the plan is consistent with that PMDP.
Thank you. We have a representative for the applicant. Please come forward.
Chairman, I'll have to recuse myself from this item as well.
Noted.
Good evening. Thank you, Mike Stanton, represent 10 Properties. Right, it's pretty much what we got approved on preliminary master development plan. I did get to see the comments earlier today. I have not had seen them in full detail, but look to be minor, and we'll work through those. I think our resubmission's on the 11th, and we'll work through those comments and be prepared for our meeting in 2 weeks. But it looks like everything is pretty simple, pretty benign, pretty basic.
The major change, if you want to call it major, was losing 2 lots. Okay.
The road networks, everything else was the same.
Where were the 2 lots? Did you lose those over at the
They're right,
west entrance?
Right there.
Oh, okay. Any questions? See you back in a few weeks. Thank you. Item number 13, Avery Trace preliminary plat.
Yes, this is for the same development, 293 residential lots on 110 acres. We had some cleanup questions and some questions for phasing. I just want to make sure everything's included and makes sense for everybody, but otherwise the layout is the same.
Okay, Mike?
Yep, Mike Stan, 10 Properties, agree. Most comments are just clerical and cleanup, and we'll work through those over the next couple of days.
Looks kind of clerical. Okay. Anything? Okay. We'll see it back in a few weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Item number 14 is Westfield Phase 2B, amended preliminary master development plan and revised final master development plan.
El Martinez, planning staff. The owner and applicant are requesting approval of the Westfield Phase 2B FMDP. Phase 2B removes 2 previously approved lots from the site, changing the count from 66 to 64. No other major changes are planned. Planning staff did have minimal comments, and I believe there is still some discussion about connection easement with engineering. Apart from that, everything else is pretty routine.
We have a representative for the applicant.
Good evening, Jason Morlock Engineering. I know Aaron and I talked about that on Friday. I've talked with the developer as well. It's a connection over to Thorn Creek at the end of Weller Lane, and we're okay with leaving it in. Meaning just the easement, correct? Just doesn't have to be constructed at this time. Okay, yep. So we're good with that. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
That one looks pretty routine.
Routine. See you back in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Item number 15 is Villas on the Green, Clubhouse and Pool, a revised final master development plan.
Al Martinez, planning staff. The owner and applicant are requesting approval of a revised FMDP for the Villas on the Green clubhouse and pool. Changes to the site include the introduction of a pool, clubhouse, and additional parking spaces. Some of the planning notes included ensuring ADA parking is in compliance, as well as proper landscaping and screening, and that setbacks are being met. Did look like the site changed a little bit from the original approval.
Thank you. We have a representative for the applicant present. Okay. Questions for staff?
My only questions would be, are y'all okay with architecture, things like that?
Yeah, architecture was fine. It seems to match the rest of the neighborhood.
Okay, cool.
The only thing they really added, they did add some parking that's different from the original version that was approved. But the architecture is similar to what they had approved the first time. So that's more of why it came back, is they're adding a parking component.
I don't,
know about that.
yeah, it looks fine to me.
Okay.
I will say, I'd want to make sure that the plot plan that gets submitted is the one that's drawn, because that one actually meets the setbacks versus, so that one actually shows the correct buffer yard and everything, versus the other more digital one, which didn't quite meet it. So we just want to make sure we get the correct one.
The only thing I can see from their drawing is their sidewalk needs to be 7 feet, not 5 feet. At head-in parking. That's my only comment.
Where?
At where the parking is on the drawing, they show 5 feet.
Oh.
It needs to be 7 feet. 7 feet
7 feet.
to meet code.
It's in the hand drawing.
Up. Oh, okay. Yeah. Is that ADA compliance or something?
That's just code compliant.
When the front of the car goes over the sidewalk, you can still walk down it.
Any other discussion or questions? And then we'll sit back in a few weeks. Item number, and then we have under other business, the open space discussion. Which staff member is presenting this?
I'll introduce it. So this came up at a city council meeting in December. The city council has requested that this body have some discussion on open space and how it is defined in our zoning ordinance. And if we feel that there needs to be any clarification on that at this time, or if you guys have any guidance for city council about this topic. It's come up before, but they have formally asked for your feedback on it. And I'm here to answer any questions you guys have about it.
Well, I think my first question on it, Julian, would be, I mean, is planning staff correctly applying the ordinance as it's written to all the projects?
We are.
Okay. And then, can you give us an update on the zoning ordinance update plan? I think the contract, my understanding is the contract for the consultants has been signed, and that's getting that project started.
Yes, so I believe the contract was just signed.
It was.
Yes, by the mayor. And so we are starting that process of updating our entire zoning ordinance as a response to now having a new comp plan. So we'll be looking at a number of aspects of our current zoning ordinance, kind of bringing it more up to date. There's a number of outdated things in that ordinance. There's a number of unclear things in that ordinance. And so that will be going on over the next year, year and a half.
Do you mind me asking who's the consultant?
Mayor, do you happen to know? I don't remember who it is, and I don't have it written down.
Okay.
I can tell you, give me 1 minute.
Okay.
I'll move along now.
So items, this would be addressed in the zoning ordinance and addressed not in a vacuum, but in connection with everything else. Is this already something that they will be addressing in the zoning ordinance overall?
Yes.
Or do we need to give them directives that there are, have y'all already given them clear directives as to what things really need to be improved in the zoning ordinance? Or are they making recommendations?
Yeah, there's a very large scope, as you can guess from the previous city planner. He was very thorough.
Okay.
And so.
I didn't know if
believe-
we had seen that yet or not.
No. So there's nothing that we've even seen at this point with the contract just getting signed.
Okay.
But just like we just mentioned architecture earlier today, these are all things that we want to look at with the zoning ordinance, that staff will be involved in, that this body will be involved in, and city council.
So I mean, with that said, I think the conversation around open space discussions needs to be made as a part of that overall process of updating the zoning ordinances and codes.
The conflict we have is because it's subjective, which is always difficult. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's TPUDC, Town Planning and Urban Design Consultants.
Okay.
Out of Franklin, I think.
Yep. But I guess if council's looking for some feedback from planning commission, that would be mine, is I think it needs to be addressed as a part of the overall rewrite of the zoning ordinances and not peeled out as just a single item.
I agree with that. Okay. Any other business you need to bring up?
I do not have anything. I believe, I can put anything under announcements if I need to, but.
Beg pardon?
Anything under announcements. We do have the spring TAPA conference coming up, I believe, in April.
Fall Creek Falls, I think.
Yes, I believe so. So I'm happy to forward you guys. I believe we got some dates finally. I don't think there's any kind of agenda. I think it's a little early. So, but
No, it's
Fall
in
Creek
Fall Creek
Falls.
Might be a little safer than our previous locale. What, do you know the dates?
It's in April. I will email all of you what those dates are. We just got it last week. And so if anyone obviously is interested in attending that, that's usually a day, day and a half, so not quite as big of a commitment.
April the 18th and 19th.
Okay.
That'll be the only dates that I know off the top of my head.
That was the dates.
Yeah.
Yeah, the email came
Yeah,
out.
so we can get that to you guys.
Okay. Yep.
You know if they'll cover, can we fulfill our property rights requirements at that conference? We should be able to, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a legal component to it, if it's that specific, but we can look and
Usually
see.
is.
Yeah, we can
Phil
look.
Terry and Sam Edwards.
Yeah, so we can look and see if, whenever the agenda comes out, we can look and see what they're all discussing. But I do not know at this point.
Just remind everyone, you should have received an email about your disclosure statements with the state. Make sure you get those filled out.
What is it?
The interest disclosures.
Interest of
You
disclosure.
do it for being on the city council.
Okay. Thank you. We'll see y'all in a few weeks.